National renewal is what both the rival French presidential candidates are promising, but they offer very different paths to get there. Liberal centrist Emmanuel Macron, winner of the first round, and nationalist Marine Le Pen are already revolutionizing French politics. They have delivered a big blow to the long-dominant socialists and conservative Republicans. Mr Macron leads a new movement called En Marche, on the move, while Ms Le Pen is backed by the National Front, FN. They disagree on many issues, especially Europe and immigration. The decisive second round is on 7 May, and polls suggest Mr Macron is ahead. So what are the main differences between the Macron and Le Pen visions? Economy. Macron. Make budget savings of Euro 60 bn, £51 billion, $65 billion, so that France sticks to the EU deficit limit of 3% of GDP, total output. Public investments worth Euro 50 bn spread over 5 years for environmental measures, apprenticeships, digital innovation and public infrastructure. Lower corporation tax to 25% from 33.3%. Le Pen. Introduce intelligent protectionism, including favoring French firms in public sector contracts. Abandon the euro and bring back the franc. Free up loans for small businesses by lowering interest charges. Labor market. Macron. Boost people's purchasing power by cutting their social security contributions, worth about €500 annually for someone on a monthly net salary of €2,200. Allow firms flexibility on the 35-hour working week, but extra hours worked will be free of social security deductions. Maintain retirement age at 62, but unify retirement rules to reduce complexity. Le Pen. Impose a new tax on the hiring of foreign workers so that French citizens get priority. Keep the 35-hour working week. Lower the retirement age to 60. Europe. Macron. Reform the EU by establishing a separate Eurozone budget, Eurozone finance minister and Eurozone parliament, MEPs from the 19 countries that use the euro. In Brexit negotiations, insist that EU single market rules apply fully to all trade partners. Promote free trade deals like CETA, the EU-Canada deal. Le Pen. Repatriate powers to France and hold an in-out referendum on France's EU membership. Restore full border controls, leave the Schengen open borders system, appoint 6,000 new customs officers. Scrap the EU Posted Workers Directive, to block competition from foreign workers in France. Immigration. Macron. Create a 5,000-strong force of EU border guards. Make fluency in French the main qualification for obtaining French nationality. Give all religious leaders comprehensive training in France's secular values. Le Pen. Suspend all legal immigration, restore border controls and then limit immigration to 10,000 annually. Automatically deport all foreign criminals and foreigners with Islamist links. Grant asylum only to people who apply for it at French diplomatic missions abroad. Defense and security. Macron. Recruit 10,000 new police officers. Expand prisons to house an extra 15,000. Create an EU defense fund to promote joint military projects and set up a permanent European headquarters. Le Pen. Recruit 15,000 new police officers. Create 40,000 extra prison places. Boost armed forces by 50,000 personnel to return to 2007 levels and take France out of NATO's command structure. Education. Macron. In areas of special need, notably poor suburbs, banlieues, limit class sizes in primary schools to 12 pupils per teacher. Ban children's use of mobile phones at school. At the age of 18, French teenagers will get a cultural pass worth €500 to spend on cultural pursuits such as the cinema, theatre, books. Le Pen. Get back to basics, prioritize teaching of French, history and maths. Restore school uniforms and respect for teachers. Make schools secular zones free of social conflict. Political reform. Macron. Cut the number of civil servants by 120,000, through natural wastage but excluding hospitals. MPs must not work as consultants, nor employ family members. Cut the total number of parliamentary deputies and senators by about 1/3. Le Pen. Simplify the civil service by cutting the layers of state administration from 6 to 3. Cut the number of deputies to 300, from 577, and senators to 200, from 348. Introduce proportional representation in all elections. Current parliamentary elections are first past the post. Energy and environment. Macron. Half of food provided in school and work canteens must be organic or locally produced. France must be the world leader in developing green technologies. 1 million poorly insulated homes must be renovated. Le Pen. Support nuclear energy and modernize it, and keep Fessenheim atomic power station running. Boost investment in French renewable energy firms, under the supervision of state utility EDF, but stop wind energy projects. Cut pollution by maximizing production in France instead of shipping goods globally. The polling average line looks at the 5 most recent national polls and takes the median value, the value between the 2 figures that are higher and 2 figures that are lower. The battle to become France's next president boils down to a sharp clash of contrasting visions. In one corner is centrist Emmanuel Macron, with his pro-globalization, pro-EU worldview. In the other, far-right candidate Marine Le Pen, who champions nationalism and a France-first approach. The country Mr Macron wants is no longer France, it's a space, a wasteland, a trading room where there are only consumers and producers, Le Pen told thousands of supporters in Nice on Thursday, April 28. Macron has a starkly different message. I will be the voice of hope for our country and for Europe, he said after the April 23 first-round vote. Le Pen and Macron, who says he is neither of the left nor the right, eliminated France's traditional political forces to reach the May 7 runoff. The 39-year-old former investment banker, who had never before stood for election, started his centrist movement only 12 months ago but is now on the cusp of becoming France's youngest ever president. Despite his lack of political experience, polls currently show he will beat Le Pen by around 20 percentage points. President François Hollande launched Macron's political career, picking him as an economic advisor and then parachuting him into his socialist government as economy minister. Sensing a worldwide shift away from established parties, Macron turned his back on Hollande and quit the cabinet in August to concentrate on building up his own centrist political movement En Marche, on the move. Since then, he has amassed over 250,000 members and confounded critics who said his appeal would not reach beyond young, urban professionals. In politics as well as his personal life, Macron has broken traditions. The theatre and poetry lover from a middle-class family in Amiens, northeast France, fell for his secondary school drama teacher, Brigitte Tronux. A 64-year-old mother of 3, a quarter of a century older than Macron, she left her husband and married the young prodigy in 2007. The unshakable confidence with which Macron pursued Brigitte has been evident throughout his career. But it tripped him up after he finished top in the first round, when he gave what many saw as a triumphalist speech and then held a party at a Paris bistro. Opponents and allies were quick to remind him that victory was not assured, and he threw himself into campaigning. Hard-edged politics. Unlike Macron, 48-year-old Le Pen is steeped in hard-edged politics. Her pugnacious father Jean-Marie Le Pen reached the runoff of the 2002 presidential election, but was soundly beaten by the centre-right Jacques Chirac. 15 years later, his gravel-voiced daughter believes she can become France's first woman president, and the first from the National Front, FN, party that her father founded. She faces an uphill task as her younger rival appears to attract a broader spectrum of voters. She also goes into the runoff with several investigations hanging over the FN and her entourage for alleged funding scandals, while she is also being probed after tweeting pictures of Islamic State jihadists' atrocities. In the last presidential election in 2012, Le Pen finished third with just under 18%. She has tried to portray the 2017 contest as David against Goliath. She has worked assiduously to try to rid the party of its more extreme edge, and kicked her further out of it after he repeatedly described Nazi gas chambers as a detail of history. Over the past 6 years, Le Pen's rebranded Party of Patriots has been propelled by the anti-globalization, anti-establishment fury that drove Britain's vote to leave the EU and Donald Trump's election in the United States. Now a twice-divorced mother of 3, she guards her private life jealously, in contrast to Macron. She appears rarely as a couple with her current partner, who is the FN's Vice President Louis Alliot. Le Pen developed her flair for sharp put-downs as a state-appointed lawyer defending illegal immigrants facing deportation. Despite that experience, she blames migration, and the European Union, for France's economic woes. The centrist favorite to win the French presidency is losing his lead over his far-right rival with just a week to go until the vote. Emmanuel Macron's lead over Marine Le Pen has slipped 6 points since polls conducted just before the first round last Sunday. However, he is still as much as 20 points ahead. According to pollster Harris Interactive, who correctly predicted the result of the first round with remarkable accuracy, Mr Macron now has a lead of 61% against Ms Le Pen's 39%. That compares with a poll carried out under the same conditions just before last Sunday's vote that put Mr Macron at 67% and Ms Le Pen at 33%. Importantly, the most recent Harris poll was conducted before Ms Le Pen announced an alliance with the defeated first-round presidential candidate Nicolas Dupont-Aignan. Mr Dupont-Aignan was 6th in the first-round contest, securing 4.7% of the vote. His party, Debout La France, Stand Up France, is an offshoot of the conservative right. The alliance will be seen by some right-wing voters as attractive. Ms Le Pen has said that Mr Dupont-Aignan would become her prime minister. He once claimed he could never form an alliance with the far right. His policies are less extreme than hers, though he is deeply Eurosceptic and a long-standing critic of the Eurozone. The newly formed duo released a joint statement on Saturday alongside a modified manifesto. Within it, some of Ms Le Pen's campaign pledges seem to have become more ambiguous. There is no explicit mention of her promise to quit the single currency, and only a looser reference to ditching French membership of the EU. Sections of the French media are claiming it represents an important U-turn designed to lure more voters. Elderly right-wing voters had been particularly concerned about the pledge to quit the Eurozone because of the effect it could have on their savings. The two candidates have spent the weekend campaigning in different parts of the country. Ms Le Pen was in the south of France on Sunday with a particular campaign message on the environment, a key issue for the now-defeated far-left candidate Jean-Luc Mélenchon. It's possible that far-right Ms Le Pen could, curiously, attract a proportion of far-left voters because despite their opposing views on immigration, Mr Mélenchon and Ms Le Pen share some anti-establishment and anti-globalization visions. Ms Le Pen and her campaign team claim Mr Macron represents a bubble that will burst at the first national crisis. He is, they say, representative of the globalist, borderless elite of politicians and financiers who have no interest in looking after real people. The country Mr Macron wants is no longer France, it's a space, a wasteland, a trading room where there are only consumers and producers, Ms Le Pen told a crowd of thousands of supporters in the southern city of Nice. Conversely, Mr Macron's team are casting Ms Le Pen as a dangerous xenophobe with a closed, narrow and nationalist vision. They are attempting to persuade voters that Ms Le Pen's sanitization of her Front National Party is an illusion. They claim her attempt to broaden its image and policies beyond a long-standing hardline on immigration is simply a ploy to attract voters. In the first round of voting last Sunday, Mr Macron secured 23.75% of the vote compared with Emmanuel Le Pen's 21.53%. Given that half of voters didn't choose either Emmanuel Le Pen nor Mr Macron, big question in this final week is which way will they all vote? Polling has revealed some surprising trends. Both candidates will begin their final few days of campaigning with large rallies in the French capital later on Monday. On Wednesday, the two will go head-to-head in a live televised debate. The choice for voters is two starkly contrasting visions for France which will define the direction of the country and the continent. They could hardly be more different. Pro-European centrist Emmanuel Macron is facing anti-immigration, anti-EU Marine Le Pen in France's presidential runoff May 7. Here's a look at just a few of the ways the two candidates diverge. Europe. Macron is fierily promoting common European ideals of peace, prosperity and freedom. He says that, with Britain leaving, the bloc needs to build a new leadership base anchored by France and Germany. He wants the bloc to be able to deploy 5,000 European border guards to the external borders of the Schengen passport-free travel zone, and proposes a European fund to finance and develop shared military equipment. Le Pen, on the other hand, wants to pull France from the European Union. She advocates for closing France's borders, protectionist trade policies and dropping the shared euro currency to return to the French franc. She promised to restore France as a sovereign state in charge of its own borders and money supply, and to crack down on immigration. She considers Macron an immigrationist because he has backed German Chancellor Angela Merkel's policies to welcome refugees from Syria. Le Pen asked a television program to remove the European flag from the stage during her speech. During Macron's rallies, by contrast, many supporters wave European flags alongside French flags. Fight against terrorism. In a country marked by a series of attacks by Islamic extremists, Le Pen and Macron both pledged to boost police and military and intelligence services. Yet their views on international policies are starkly different. Macron pledges to keep up French operations against extremists in Iraq and Syria and Africa's Sahel region. Le Pen wants France to be militarily independent and to leave NATO's command to avoid being drawn into others' wars. Macron proposes to increase the French defense budget to at least 2% of GDP by 2025, up from 1.78% now, in line with NATO targets, and to keep the number of overall military troops stable at 200,000. Le Pen promises to reach 3% of GDP by 2022, adding 50,000 more soldiers, a second aircraft carrier and more jets, ships and armored vehicles. Le Pen firmly backs the Syrian regime and distanced herself from U.S. President Donald Trump over recent U.S. airstrikes targeting President Bashar Assad's regime, and is friendly with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Macron wants international pressure on Assad and to maintain sanctions against Russia over Ukraine. Different styles. Bold and gritty, Le Pen, 48, is an experienced leader making her second bid for the French presidency. She has held elected office several times in northern France and has been a European lawmaker since 2004. On stage, she favors a classic style, often wearing somber suits or playing on the blue-white-red colors of the French flag. A rousing speaker, she likes to use dramatic, cut-to-the-chase expressions and doesn't hesitate to harshly criticize her rivals. Macron, 39, has never held elected office. He is a literature lover who likes to quote French authors in his lengthy speeches. He asks his supporters not to boo other politicians. He's leading an American-style campaign where he often appears publicly with his wife Brigitte, 24 years his senior. Le Pen's longtime companion, Louis Alliot, remains more discreet. Even their music choices contrast. Macron's supporters were dancing to modern techno music during his election party in a Parisian exhibition center. Le Pen's militants were celebrating with 1980s standards in her town of Hen in Beaumont in northern France.